going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined with my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. And today we're going to be discussing PFF ranking the 49ers as one of the top four as when it comes to grading offensive line's WAR score. Matt, what do you make of this? We were, thinking all year 49ers offensive line is garbage. That's what it looked like, at least when we were watching it. PFF comes in and says, no, actually, they're one of the four best.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. PFF, I really dislike PFF for a lot of reasons. One, they're not transparent. Whatever their algorithm is, they don't tell anybody what it is. And I don't know if they're trying to keep secrets or if they're just not, really, I don't know. They're not transparent at all. So nobody knows what actually goes into it. Second of all, as a baseball guy, I can tell you, analytics really works for baseball. When you're talking about all kinds of different statistics that work in the game of baseball, when you look at WAR, which is what they're talking about here, wins above replacement, that doesn't translate to football to me. Football is completely separate from. So in baseball, you have your overall WAR, you have defensive WAR, which, how you field, how you hit, how you combine those overall. And you get a certain number where you have wins above replacement. So say, somebody with a 7.2 WAR or something is worth 7.2 more wins per season than his replacement would be in that same situation. Football's different, though, because how can you calculate WAR for players that only play one side of the ball? They only play offense. They only play defense. And now you're talking about guys, too, who, when you talk about the offensive line, are you talking about giving up sacks? Are you talking about giving up pressures? PFF doesn't even tell you how they define pressures. Is it two steps within the quarterback? Is it changing how the quarterback moves in the pocket? If the quarterback scrambles, does that count as a pressure? Who gets credit for the pressure? Is it the guy that was closest? Is it the guy that moved, is it the guy that got moved furthest back? So it's such a nebulous thing for PFF to just come out and say the 49ers are, top four in WAR when we all watched the games and some of that was bad quarterback play, sure. But no, I watched McGlinchey get knocked on his backside so many times this year. You can't tell me that they were a top four line watching the right tackle get devastated like that the whole time. Slim Mike couldn't even find a sandwich this year. And we're talking about top four WAR. I don't buy it. That's one of the things that bothers me about PFF. Their best asset is rating quarterbacks, and even then, that's really suspect. They tend to overvalue things that don't truly affect the game. So, in my opinion, PFF's way off here, but that's par for the course for them.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this is like overthinking things. And like you said, a lot of people have asked Pro Football Focus, could you go into these stats? Could you go into these breakdowns? How did you come up with this? And if they even respond most of their time, it's ridiculous nonsense, with all due respect, PFF. But I was looking at some of the articles that they even put out kind of talking about it, and it's pretty hard to follow. They tweeted out, this tweet that had the 49ers included as one of the top four offensive linemen when it comes to their WAR gradings. And I was hoping they'd have a follow-up tweet that would have some further explanations. I didn't see that, at least as of recording this. So I thought that was a bit strange. Like you said, we all watched the 49ers offensive line this season. They were shaky at best. Outside of Trent Williams, it was a bunch of, crappy players, to put it mildly, that just couldn't really hold their own no matter who they were going against. So I was surprised to see it. But you've talked about PFF previously, at least I know you have in the group chat. I don't know if you have on video. Is this kind of just like another thing that's going into their kind of business model where it's like, is this really need to be broken down like this? And when it is, you guys still aren't even doing it right?
Yeah. It's, PFF, they're useful in certain regards. Like you could bring up all kinds of stats for it. I know that they've made a name for themselves with certain stats, but then you look at some and you're just like, what are they talking about? And this is one of them. We played with replacement offensive linemen for most of the season. Weston Richburg's the starter. So, like, if you're talking about wins above the replacement for the replacement, are we talking about like a grocery store worker? Are we talking about, a gas station clerk? Like, what? how do they even, and then they won't tell you. And it's more of like, oh, we'll just take our word for it. Well, no. Why would I take your word for it when you never explain? And by the way, when next season comes out and you're like, well, we've adjusted our algorithm to make more sense in these 4 areas. Okay, well, then does that render these numbers useless? Like, those don't count anymore? So PFF to me will never be as important as the eye test. And the eye test told me that the 49ers offensive line was bad.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my next point too, is they randomly will just update their algorithms or their equations into how they calculate these percentages and these answers, rankings, I should say. And then it's just kind of like they do it quietly, and it's like, okay, well, what about everything else previously that came out on these rankings using that previous equation? It's almost like, is it moot now, or is that still just taken with a grain of salt that, hey, by the way, these calculations have been updated? PFF, I feel like you said, some of their things are really useful. Like you can see, overall player gradings, positional breakdowns. I actually do like that, and I think it comes in handy in certain times. But for the most part, a lot of it is like you said, stats work really well and analytics work really well in baseball. I don't think they've quite made that transfer over to football. At least they don't really know how to find that similar breakdown. Like you said, passing the eye test, the 49ers offensive line did not. Is this kind of a little more confirmation that PFF, with all due respect, is trash?
I mean, I just listen. I can't respect people that don't, a system that doesn't give you how they get to that certain point. It doesn't work in any scientific community. The biggest thing that, when we do hypotheses and experiments and things like that in any sort of scientific format, not only do you have to come up with a certain method in terms of how you got there, but it also has to be repeatable. It has to be a repeatable. So if you're just going to, hold your secrets to yourself, like, you're not the first people to do analytics. And we've seen it when you have PFF say one set of numbers, and then you have Pro Football Reference saying another set of numbers, and they have their own analytical formula. It turns into almost like an opinion-based game. There's nothing scientific about this. This is not, anything that should be held to such a standard that, it's the letter of the law and nothing else comes into play. It's a difference between quarterback rating and QBR. Like, it's just a number, and taken outside of context, any type of statistic can be manipulated to fit a narrative if you want it to. We see that in every aspect of life. It's, your kid tells you, well, oh, I only had to do 75% of my homework today. Well, okay, but you know what I'm saying? It's just anybody can make up an arbitrary number. Oh, I only yell at my wife 1% of times. But what if that 1% is like the worst thing you've ever said, right?
Right.
So PFF saying like, nope, these are our numbers. Nope, we're not going to tell you how we got them. You just have to believe them. That doesn't fly with me. And this is case in point. Anybody watching the 49ers line is going to go top 4. Really? No way. No way. And it's like, how do you even get that number? And by the way, single factor analysis is just WAR, wins above replacement. What does that even mean? It obviously doesn't mean that they're the 4th best line. Maybe their players were 4th best in terms of how good they were over the people behind them, but that doesn't mean anything on a practical level. So we're talking about wins above replacement, and you're looking at the rest of the 49ers line that didn't play, and you're saying they were 4th, they had the 4th most wins above replacement. Okay, well, that doesn't say how good or bad a line is. It just says how bad the backups are. So, it doesn't really mean anything, but it's cool to put it on a splash screen and be like, look, see, the 49ers line wasn't that bad. It's like, no, they were really bad. And you're choosing this one cherry-picked stat to say, no, they weren't. So, yeah, it's just more of the same from PFF.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Who are you talking about as far as replacements? And like you said earlier, they already were replacements, most of them. So it kind of gets a little tricky there. But the fact that you can't see these equations and try and replicate them yourself, I think is the most troublesome to me. But that's PFF for you. today, as we're recording this, Peter King reported in his Football Morning in America column that the NFL is within a month of finalizing 10-year TV deals. These packages could result in an aggregate increase of 70 to 100% increase in rights fees from the last contract per Peter King. How much will this help the NFL as far as salary cap?
I think that's going to offset a lot of what has happened with the salary cap, and I think that's why they haven't announced the cap yet. Just because when you get your accountants in there and you can kind of project out, I mean, 75 to 100% of what they're already making is pretty absurd. And I think that this whole pandemic doing what it was doing, in terms of, you've taken out live revenue, you've taken out concessions, you've taken out all this stuff. It shows the importance of the TV deals. And the NFL is definitely going to try to take advantage of that. So in terms of where the salary cap's going to go, the salary cap's going to grow. Maybe not this year. Hopefully this year, maybe they just, it's higher than the 180 that was projected a couple of weeks ago. But in terms of the future, I mean, the salary cap's going to climb. So the 49ers, as it stands right now, would have 19 players going into 2022 with a cap hit of about 145 million. That's a lot for just those 19 players. So it really could become advantageous for the 49ers to have the salary cap grow, the ability to even restructure people and maneuver to get under the salary cap. It can only benefit the 49ers in the long term. It's really interesting to see this last minute shuffling of what we thought was going to be 180 million, but that could turn out to be a lot more.
Yeah. And, as far as them holding off, I see here Jabari Young of CNBC reported that the frameworks of the deal could be finalized before the setting of the 2021 salary cap, a signal that some of the money earned in the TV deals could be shifted to pump the spending limit above the expected figure of 180 million. That's per Pro Football Talk. That would be huge because all these teams are expecting to take a loss as it is. They floated this figure out 180, which was above what they had previously floated out. So people were kind of thinking, okay, not as bad. But if they could pump that up, that would still be huge because 180 per this article is 18.2 million less. So it would be, still a drop, but if they're able to replace that, that would be huge. And this includes the Sunday package with CBS, Fox, NBC, and Thursday and Monday nights continue to be in flux. So it looks like the kind of mainstay football Sundays is going to stay the same. But as far as Monday and Thursday nights, that could be up in the air as far as which networks have rights to those games. The 49ers, though, you talked about going into the next season, next offseason, I should say. This would benefit them tremendously, right? I mean, with Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, everybody's freaking out on them being strapped with D Ford. I know this is going into this offseason, but still, if they're forced to keep these guys next season, they should be in a better situation with a bunch of rookies.
Yeah, I fully expect. I think David Lombardi had tweeted about it today, and we cash in on David Lombardi about being a Jimmy G homer a little bit, but he made a good point that if D Ford's back injury is as bad as everybody suspects, and the fact that he's had a fusion and is having back problems, to me, make it seem like it's really serious. They can convert a lot of that to a signing bonus based on the injury settlement, and essentially take the cap hit this year and then have it come off the books next year. It's going to be really important. I don't know if it'll help with somebody like Trent Williams. I think that if you raise the cap for the 49ers, you're also raising it for a team that can throw more money at Trent Williams. So that's going to be up in the air. But the fact that the 49ers can retain some of their mid to lower level free agents without too much stressing out about Jimmy Garoppolo's contract or the D Ford contract or the Weston Richburg contract actually helps them out so that they're not throwing rookies who may or may not be ready just out there to the Wolves right off the bat.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Guys like a Kendrick Bourne or, a few other of these free agents that maybe even a Jason Verrett might not command too high of a figure. It would really help with Emmanuel Mosley, K'Wan Williams. We've talked about a bunch. I'm sorry. I'm getting all excited thinking of these free agents that the 49ers could possibly keep. would really help. And as far as moving forward, this is a huge deal that would help increase the salary cap. Like we talked about, 70 to 100, 75 to 100%. That's huge, especially coming off of this COVID era where everything was so kind of up in the air. Nobody really knew. That would provide a lot of stability for the NFL moving forward. These teams would have a lot more cash to work with. Now, you talked about Trent Williams possibly, that would help other teams acquire him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the 49ers would be able to get in any sort of a bidding war, even if this happens?
It's going to be hard because when you look forward, it's like, well, the money on the George Kittle deal is going to start to hit in 2022, I believe. You're looking at, do you keep a Kyle Juszczyk who's important to the offense? Mike McGlinchey is going to be up on his 5th year. How do you play that out? If Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt again, what do you do with him? If you're even running it back with him, or even if they make the splash move, Deshaun Watson's salary cap number grows. It's going to be really hard to get into a true bidding war for Trent Williams. You're talking about a guy that's, I'm amazing. He's an amazing left tackle. He's also 32. He's hitting the free agent market for the first time. And he said, I want to get paid. I want to see what my true value is out there. That to me means that some bad team is probably going to overpay. And for all the people who are like, well, he probably likes Kyle Shanahan. You can like Kyle Shanahan all you want, but at the end of the day, you like the zeros in your bank account more. So we've seen it where good players go from a good team to a bad team because they get paid. At this point in his life, who knows where Trent Williams' head is at, other than the fact that he's made public statements about wanting to get paid. So for me, I don't think that the 49ers can be in any sort of sustained bidding war for his services, and they'd probably be better off to let him walk if he's going to command, significantly above like a David Bakhtiari or something like that, which is the bar right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Bakhtiari contract, it really put the 49ers in a tough position as far as wanting to keep Trent Williams. This Pro Football Talk article, though, there's an interesting kind of tad bit in here I wanted to get your opinion on. Peter King called Amazon the favorite to land Thursday Night Football, which would be, they had kind of had that shared viewership with NFL Network this season. I think some games were specifically NFL Network, but it looks like they're in the talks to getting the sole rights to Thursday Night Football. How do you see that playing out? Do you think that that's something that would be beneficial to the NFL by any, for any
absolutely.
reason?
It's going to be beneficial. I mean, the NFL Network's owned by the NFL. They don't make any money off their own network. True. So for me, you get rights deals for NFL like Sunday Ticket at Red Zone. That's where the money is through the NFL Network or whatever. And then running, ads based off of, your television shows like Good Morning Football and stuff like that. That's where you're going to make your money. You're not going to make it on these big TV deals like you would if you were going outside of the NFL's kind of scope. With Amazon, I think Amazon, every time I watch the Thursday Night Football games on Amazon, it's a clear stream. The picture's great. Everything's working the way that it's supposed to. The real question is whether they're still going to piggyback off of Fox announcers, which, of course, they very well could. I believe Amazon is under the Fox umbrella. I'm not 100% sure on that. But they do piggyback off the Fox broadcast. It's always been Aikman and Buck. But yeah, no, I think it's good to get it outside of the NFL Network, kind of expand and broaden your horizon. Amazon's done a great job with their All or Nothing series that they do every year. So the ties are there. It's just a matter of them implementing it. And so going forward, you'd like to see Amazon, maybe somebody like a Netflix gets in for like Monday Night Football. You never know. But the NFL is leveraging the pandemic to really get better TV deals because the importance of television has become all the more apparent.
Yeah, I think this whole streaming avenue for the NFL is kind of their next way to go. A lot more money, a lot more viewership. Plus, I don't know how many households around the United States even have NFL Network, the channel in their subscription package. Yeah. I know I get my cable TV through YouTube TV, and up until this past season, we didn't have the option to even add NFL Networks.
Yeah, so, and that's the other important part too, is that, you're still getting a lot of these games on like network TV, and a lot of people don't even have network TV. So they have to find a way. I think they're going to find a way to incorporate Amazon and some of these other streaming services to allow you to watch games if you don't have cable. So many people are cutting the cords. Everybody is somewhere else. And honestly, here's something to even look at is the NFL should really tie some of their merchandising through Amazon too, because a lot of Amazon Prime Video is through Amazon Prime, and then if you can tie that into your merch sales and have Amazon be like an official outlet for the NFL, I think that if you didn't have to go to like Fanatics or something and wait 2 weeks to get your item, instead it's done in 2 days. I think that would really kind of speed things up and move more merchandise. That's just something that could be off in the future and just a random thought I had. But I think that getting into the streaming game and expanding your platform as much as possible is going to do nothing but wonders for the NFL. That salary cap's going to get ridiculous in a few years.
Yeah, plus that sweet Amazon money.
Yep.
That'll be nice to tap into. But I think that's going to do it for us today, guys. I want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Niners News. If you like what you see, do us a solid. Hit that subscribe button. We are trying to reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. Once we do, one of you lucky subscribers will win a 49ers jersey. Like this video and comment below. What do you think of the rumored 10-year TV deal that should happen within the next month? Let us know what you think.
Go ahead and click the bell for notifications so you never miss another new video. We love you. Thank you for joining us. And as always, go Niners.